everyone, and welcome to my channel if you're new here. If you're not new here, you've probably noticed that I haven't posted in about a month. I just wanted to give you like a very brief update before I kind of get into my September wrap up. So September was a very busy month for me. I basically started going to, I didn't start going to school. I'm taking a class, a social work class at one of the local New York City colleges. So I've been having to do like a lot of readings for that, which has kind of been taking me away from doing a lot of like reading for fun. And then in addition, I've also been working on starting up my own company, and like that's really been growing in the month of September. So I just didn't have a lot of time to like sit down and shoot videos because I had all of those things going on. But I just want to let you know that fall is going to be a rebirth for my channel. I will be putting out more videos. You'll be seeing more of me, so get excited for that. I already have like a bunch of videos filmed for you that I'm really excited to share with you. Without further ado, let's just get into all of the books that I read in the month of September. Okay, so the first book that I finished in the month of September, I just had to like read the description so many freaking times. And I already read this book, by the way. But I kind of like forget what it was about, and it's like kind of a complicated, it's not like super complicated, but it's semi-complicated. And that is The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. I'm probably gonna still have to read the back of the book, I'm sorry, but basically what this book is about, it switches back and forth between present day and the 13th century. In the 13th century, the Sufi poet Rumi encounters his spiritual mentor, the infamous wandering dervish known as Shams of Tabriz, and is transformed from a successful but unhappy cleric into a committed mystic and advocate of love. If you don't know, Rumi is like a very famous poet, so this is just the story of like him meeting his mentor, who then helps him transform into being a poet. And then you also have present day in Massachusetts. There is an unhappy housewife named Ella Rubinstein who is inspired by the Rumi's message of love, finds the courage to undertake her own transformation. So basically, like kind of the premise of the book as this, like she started working for this like publisher where she basically like reads books and gives notes to the author. She sent this book, which is basically like the story of Rumi, and then so she starts reading it, and then she starts like kind of like transforming within herself. So it's kind of like East meets West. This book I was like really loving it at first because it has like a very like mystical feel to it. A lot of this book takes place in the Middle East, and it was like interesting to learn about that, and also learning more about Islam, and also just like the story of Rumi, because I don't know if this is actually based off of like the true story of Rumi, but I'm assuming it must be. So I like this book. I didn't love it. I think that one of like the main reasons I didn't like it is because there's a ton of different perspectives. So there's obviously like main characters, but the chapters, like each chapter is from a different perspective, and they kind of cycle through, and I just don't love that. Like, I feel like if you're gonna do multi-perspective, like keep it to a small number, and there was probably like 10. I don't even know how many perspectives there were, but there was a lot of perspectives, and I thought it was like the end was like, I like the premise of the novel of like her kind of like having this like self-exploration, but I thought it was like a teeny bit corny and kind of predictable. Again, like I loved like kind of the atmospheric part of it. I never read historical fiction just in general. Like, when have you ever heard me talk about a historical fiction book? Like, usually when I'm reading like a book set in a time, it's like because it was probably like written during that time, like a classic or something. So this was written in the 13th, well, it was not written in the 13th century, but it's based in the 13th century. And I like never read books like based that old. So it was okay, not my favorite book. It's actually been on my TBR forever, and I like finally read it, so I'm glad I did. But as you can tell, like I don't really remember a lot about it, so that is The 40 Rules of Love. The next book that I read in the month of September was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is her latest book. I've also read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and Daisy Jones and the Six. I actually wasn't going to read this book, but I'm so glad I picked it up because this is the third book I've read by her, and every single book I've read by her I've absolutely loved. She's an incredible author. The audiobook is excellent. It's actually the same narrator as The Boys Club, which I also really love that book too, and I love the narrator so much, and I didn't realize that they're like a super popular narrator. Her name is Julia Whalen, and she does like all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. She's done like Kristen Hanna books. Like if you just like search her name, she will come up. So I love listening to books with her as the audio voice. This book is also like, I don't know why, like I like not in the mood to like explain books right now, but like this book is kind of hard to explain. I would definitely say it's like more like a family drama because the story basically follows like these four siblings who all have the same dad. So their dad is like this super major famous celebrity who basically kind of like abandoned them all when they were very young. And the book is set in Malibu, and basically like it's about this party that the Rivas, that's the family's name, throw every single year, the kids. And the book is like really interesting the way it's written. So it's written kind of hourly. So it's written hourly of the day of the party up until like when the party is over. But then like the first half of the book, it kind of like will flip back and forth between the like hours of the day of the party and then also how the parents of all of the kids like met. And when I say kids, I mean they're like all in their 20s, but they're like the kids of this famous celebrity. So it's really interesting. I'd say that Goodreads does a really good job of like describing like kind of the main point of the book. So it says, by midnight, the party will be completely out of control. By morning, the Riva mansion will have gone up in flames. But before that first spark in the early hours before dawn, the alcohol will flow, the music will play, and the loves and secrets that shape this family's generations will all come bubbling to the surface. Malibu Rising is a story about one unforgettable night in the life of a family. The night they each have to choose what they will keep from the people who made them and what they will have to leave behind. So yeah, that is the book. I like honestly, based off of like that, I kind of thought it was going to be a thriller. It's not really a thriller, and to be, maybe this is just my humble opinion, but the whole like fire thing, like I thought it was like really, we were like working up to like that point, and I just like didn't think it was like as huge of a plot point as like, just because it's like in the book description, I thought it'd be like this major plot point, but it kind of wasn't, which is fine, like who cares. But the book is really good. It's like a family drama, total California Malibu, has like the Hollywood aspect of it. You just kind of get to follow like all of these like different characters, and they all had like their very distinct personalities, and it was just a really, really great book. So if you've been hesitating on whether you should pick up Malibu Rising, this is your sign that you should. I really enjoyed it. I think it was excellent, and I'm actually planning on reading more books by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I will definitely keep you updated on what those are. The next book that I finished in September was Space Between: Explorations of Love, Sex, and Fluidity by Nico Tortorella. This is a memoir. Nico is an actor, and they are non-binary, queer, and in a polyamorous relationship. And they basically talk about when they were in this like rise to fame while they were pursuing their acting career, they started getting addicted to drugs and alcohol. So during that time was when they were really discovering their sexuality as well as their gender identity. And this book is just a really interesting memoir about someone who grew up in a family who didn't really understand being queer and what that meant, and it talks a lot about their struggles and self-exploration. And I really enjoyed learning about Nico's story and just, you know, learning more about how did they become, you know, the actor that they are today, and then also learning about their kind of unconventional life path. Like they definitely go off kind of the typical way that people are told they have to live their life, and they've kind of created a life of their own. They're also very spiritual, so there's a lot of like spiritual elements to this book as well. I really liked it. Like I don't know why it was such a page turner, but like I kept like wanting to know what was like gonna happen next. And I think Nico's writing is actually really good, and I was surprised by some of the lines were just so jarring and shocking. I was just like not expecting that, and so funny. Like some of the lines are just so funny. And so I think that this book is a really great memoir that talks about like these really important topics, but also just like interesting to like get to know who this person is. And I ended up really liking this memoir. It was really good, and I'm glad I ended up picking it up in the month of September. So the last book that I finished in the month of September is called Youre Not Listening by Kate Murphy. This book I listened to on audio. I actually like just finished this like yesterday. This is, yeah, on the last day of the month. And I like wasn't as into this book as I thought I would be. I'm like also like kind of shocked that I only read 4 books this month, but not because I'm reading so much of my textbooks. So anyway, that's okay. The next few months might be a light load when it comes to reading for fun, which is fine. So this book, basically, Kate Murphy is a journalist, so she kind of like, you know, does listening for a job, and she interviews like a bunch of people who like need to be good listeners for their job. She uses psychology, sociology, and neuroscience to kind of explain the art of listening. So not only like when you're actually listening to someone, like you're doing with me right now, but also like what's happening in the ear and like the importance of listening. And so I picked this book up because I'm not known to be like the best listener, and I want to be a better listener when it comes to, you know, my friends or my family and my loved ones. And I don't know why, like, so the book like was written well. There's like no shade. Like she did her research. The book is written really well. And, you know, like, it's interesting. It's just, like, it wasn't really, like, sparking, like, my curiosity, like, oh, my God, like, this is so great, you know? So, I mean, I definitely, like, learned something from it. This is what I'll say. One of the most important things I think that I learned from this book, or at least, like, what I took away, is when it comes to expressing love to other people, whether it's, like, your friends, family, or romantic partner, I've been like trying to think recently, like, what is the best way to express to those you love that you really care for them? And I think that one of the biggest things that you can do is just to listen to them. I just think that, as she says, like, there's so many people who don't really listen. We're either like checking out or thinking about the next thing that we're gonna say. We're like daydreaming, and what people really want nowadays is to be listened to. And I think that's why like a lot of people go on like social media and write these posts, but these posts are just like kind of going out into the void, and you lose a lot of the humanity when you're just sitting down with someone and speaking to them face to face. And I think that one of the best ways to show someone that you love and care for them is to listen to them without having a planned thing of what you're going to say next, and just allowing someone to vent to you, because I just think people feel really lonely and lost, and they feel like they're misunderstood or not being heard. And I think that listening is the best way to just show someone that, hey, I'm here for you, like, what's going on? So that's probably my biggest takeaway. It's definitely a skill that I'm still trying to figure out. But that was the last book that I read in September. So that's all the books. I guess, like, now, like, thinking back, one, I did not realize I only read 4 books, which is whatever. I guess it was, like, an okay reading month. Like, I, like, so, like, liked 2 books and then, like, loved 2 books. So it's fine. I didn't hate any of them, right? So, yeah, that was the month of September. Quick little wrap-up. Let me know what you're planning on reading in, not just October, actually. Let me know what you're reading in fall. Like, what are some, like, atmospheric books that you're going to pick up in fall? I would love to hear from you. I'm kind of looking for, like, fallish reads, so please let me know. And thank you so much for getting all the way until the end of this video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next one.